A quiet morning at Heartland. The golden sun rises over the ranch, but peace doesn't last long. Secrets begin to stir, and old wounds reopen. Amy faces a truth she's been running from. Lou questions her choices, and Jack feels the weight of the family legacy heavier than ever. Episode 4 doesn't just continue the story, it changes everything. Every smile hides pain, every decision carries consequence, and every heart on this ranch is tested. So if you thought you knew Heartland, think again, because this episode reminds us healing never comes easy, and sometimes love demands the hardest choices. Spoiler alert, this is where Heart lay. Episode opens with a soft tone, the kind of morning that only Heartland can capture. The horses graze quietly in the field, mist rolling over the fences. And Amy walks through the barn like she's trying to find herself in the silence. There's peace, but it feels fragile. You can sense that something is coming, something that's about to test her, in ways she hasn't faced in years. Amy is at a crossroads. After everything she's endured, losing Ty, raising Lindy, and carrying the family name forward, she's still trying to find balance between the past and her future. In this episode, we see her struggling to open up again, not just to others, but to her own emotions. There's a moment early on when she looks at Ty's old photograph, and it's not just a memory. It's a mirror of everything she's still holding on to. You can feel her hesitation, that mix of love and loss that defines her so deeply. Meanwhile, Jack and Tim share a rare moment of quiet conversation, sitting by the paddock with their coffee mugs in hand. Their dialogue feels light at first, a joke here, a shared story there, but underneath, you can sense a deeper worry. They both know Amy isn't truly okay, and in their own ways, they're both trying to help her find peace, though neither knows how. That's what makes Heartland so powerful. The emotions aren't shouted, they're whispered in glances, pauses, and the space between words. As the camera pans across the ranch, the scenery tells its own story. The warmth of the sun contrasts with the tension building beneath the surface. The episode's direction uses quiet moments to foreshadow the storm that's coming, and you can feel it. Heartland has always used nature as its emotional backdrop, and in this episode, it feels like the land itself is breathing with the characters heavy. Expectant? Alive? This section sets the stage for everything that follows. It's not about dramatic action, but about mood, about reflection, about the calm before the heartbreak. Amy's internal conflict becomes the invisible thread that connects every other storyline in this episode. Lou's restlessness, Jack's guilt, Tim's pride. It's as if every character is standing on their own emotional edge, waiting for something or someone to push them forward. And by the time the first act ends, you already know peace at Heartland never lasts long. The storm is on its way. ND breaks your heart to put it back together again. There's a quiet kind of pain that never leaves. It just changes shape. And for Amy Fleming, that pain still rides with her every morning she walks into the barn. In episode 4, we finally see her trying to face it. Not by forgetting Ty, but by learning how to live without the weight of grief pressing on every breath. The story takes a deep, emotional turn when a new horse arrives at Heartland, wild, restless, and broken. It's clear from the first glance that this isn't just another training job. This horse mirrors Amy herself, strong on the outside but scarred underneath. The animal refuses to be touched, and every time Amy tries, it reacts with fear and anger. Yet, instead of forcing a connection, Amy does what she's always done best. She listens to its silence, to its breathing, to its pain. As she spends more time with the horse, something begins to shift. The connection between them becomes a silent conversation about loss and trust. The show's writers use this bond to remind us why Heartland has always been more than just a ranch. It's a place where healing happens in ways words can't explain. When Amy finally earns the horse's trust, it's not just a training victory. It's symbolic. It's the first moment we see her letting go of her fear of moving forward. But what makes this moment powerful? It's in triumph. It's vulnerability. There's a scene where Amy stands alone in the paddock at sunset, her hands resting on the horse's mane. The camera doesn't move much. No music swells, It's just stillness, her face lit by fading light, eyes full of quiet acceptance. She doesn't need to say anything. We already understand. She's learning that healing isn't about forgetting Ty. It's about accepting that love doesn't end when life does. Later in the episode, Jack notices the change in her. He doesn't mention it, but there's a small nod, that knowing look that only Jack can give. It's his way of saying, "You're doing okay." That one silent exchange carries more emotion than words ever could. Still, Amy's path isn't smooth. She faces moments of doubt, guilt, and fear of letting someone else in. There's a new connection hinted at, someone who sees her not as Ty's widow, but as Amy, the woman she's becoming again. The writers don't push this plot. They let it breathe, and that restraint makes it even more beautiful. By the end of this section, Amy isn't healed, not completely, but she's different. Lighter, stronger in a quieter way. She's finally realizing that the love she lost doesn't have to hold her back. It can guide her forward. And that lesson, that raw, emotional truth, becomes the beating heart of this episode. Because at Heartland, every scar tells a story. And Amy's story in episode 4 reminds us that healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens one heartbeat at a time. Every family has its anchors, and at Heartland, that anchor has always been Jack Bartlett. But even anchors can crack under the pressure of time. In episode 4, we see Jack and Tim standing at a crossroad, two men molded by hardship, loyalty, and the ghosts of their past decisions. The land connects them, but it also divides them. And in this episode, that tension rises like thunder over the foothills. It starts with something small, a disagreement about how to handle a problem on the ranch. Jack, steady and cautious, wants to protect the old ways. Tim, fiery as ever, pushes for change. On the surface, it's about business, a new partnership, a supply issue, maybe even a renovation plan. But underneath, it's much deeper. It's about pride, about the fear of being left behind, and about two men who can't admit how much they actually need each other when they clash. It's not just dialogue, it's history speaking. Every word carries years of unspoken resentment and respect. The camera lingers on their faces, showing how age has softened neither of them. Jack's eyes still hold that quiet wisdom, while Tim's are full of restless energy, like he's still trying to prove something to a world that's already moved on. Their arguments don't come from anger. They come from love that's too stubborn to say its name. But what makes episode 4 powerful isn't just their conflict, it's the moments in between. There's a scene later, after a hard day, when Jack finds Tim sitting by the corral, silent. No words are exchanged for a while. Just two men watching the horses settle under the fading light. Then, in that rare, vulnerable moment, Tim admits something unexpected, a line that catches Jack off guard. It's not dramatic or loud, but honest. Something about failure, or the mistakes he made as a father, or how he envies Jack's ability to hold everyone together. It's the kind of raw confession that only Heartland can deliver. Simple, human, and real. Jack doesn't reply right away. He just looks down, takes a slow breath, finally says something that stays with you long after the scene ends, maybe about forgiveness, or about how you can't outrun your past, but you can learn to ride with it. The dialogue is brief, but it cuts deep. It's the essence of their bond, two men too proud to hug, but too loyal to ever walk away. What this episode captures beautifully is how Jack and Tim reflect the show's bigger theme, legacy. They are living reminders of what it means to build something that lasts. Every fence post, every sunrise on that land is a piece of their story. Their dynamic keeps Heartland grounded, reminding us that family isn't perfect, it's messy, painful, and filled with moments you wish you could take back. But it's also unbreakable. By the end of episode 4, Jack and Tim's tension hasn't fully eased, but there's understanding, a silent truce. The kind that only comes when two people realize that, for better or worse, they're part of the same heartbeat, the same legacy, because at Heartland, love isn't always spoken. Sometimes, it's shown in the way someone stays, even when they could have walked away. Sometimes, strength doesn't come from what you hold together. It comes from what you're brave enough to let go of. For Lou Fleming, episode 4 of Heartland is a quiet storm. One that doesn't roar with drama, but hums beneath the surface with the ache of choices, sacrifices, and the constant weight of expectation. Lou has always been the planner, the problem solver, the one who steps in when everything feels like it's falling apart. But in this episode, we see a side of her that's often hidden behind her polished confidence. The exhaustion that comes from trying to be everything to everyone, whether it's managing her mayoral duties, caring for her family, or trying to reconnect with her daughters. Lou's life feels like a juggling act where every ball is made of glass. There's a scene early in the episode that captures her perfectly. She's sitting at her desk late at night, papers scattered, phone buzzing, the clock ticking past midnight. The house is silent, everyone else is asleep. She looks around, and for just a moment, the mask slips. The confident leader disappears, and what's left is a woman who's tired of being strong, tired of smiling through the chaos, tired of feeling like no matter what she does, it's never enough. The writers don't dramatize this moment, they let it breathe. The camera lingers on her face, the soft lamplight catching the tension in her eyes. It's a reminder that sometimes the heaviest battles aren't fought with others, but within ourselves. Lou's struggle isn't about failure. It's about identity. She's asking the question so many of us do. When did I stop living for myself? As the episode unfolds, Lou's storyline runs parallel to Amy's, both women searching for balance, both trying to heal in different ways. Lou's challenge comes in the form of choices, a tough decision about her future, her career, and her role in the family. There's pressure from all sides, and for once, she doesn't have all the answers. It's humbling, and it's human. One of the standout moments comes when Lou confides in Jack. It's not a long conversation, but it's honest. Jack listens quietly as she talks about her fears, about losing control, about disappointing the people she loves. And Jack, with his steady wisdom, doesn't give advice. He just says one thing. Sometimes you don't have to fix it. Lou, you just have to feel it. That single line cuts through everything. It's what Lou needed to hear. And maybe what we all need to hear sometimes. By the end of episode 4, Lou doesn't have everything figured out. But that's the point. She's learning to stop chasing perfection and start embracing imperfection, to stop managing her life like a checklist and start living it like a story. Her smile in the final scene feels different, not forced, not polished, just real. The kind of smile that says, I'm still figuring it out, but that's okay. Lou's journey in this episode is a quiet masterpiece, not because it's dramatic, but because it's true. It shows that even the strongest hearts need rest, that even leaders need grace, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that you're tired, because at Heartland, being strong doesn't mean never breaking, it means learning how to put yourself back together, one choice at a time. Every great story has its center, but it's the edges that make it whole. In episode 4, the supporting characters, Georgie, Katie, and the newcomers, aren't just background voices. They are the soft heartbeat of Heartland, the pieces of everyday life that remind us why this ranch feels like home. Georgie returns with a new kind of maturity. She's no longer the reckless dreamer chasing trophies. She's someone learning to redefine success on her own terms. In this episode, we catch glimpses of her quietly mentoring a younger rider, teaching lessons that sound more like reflections of her own journey. There's a gentleness in her tone, but you can sense the fire that's still there, the determination that made fans fall in love with her years ago. She's growing, but she hasn't lost that spark, Katie. On the other hand, is still finding her place in a world that feels too big and too uncertain. Episode 4 gives her one of her most honest moments, a small scene, maybe just a few lines, but full of heart. She questions what family really means when everyone seems so busy, so distracted. It's a quiet scene, but it hits hard because it reflects something universal, that feeling of being surrounded by love, yet still feeling unseen. The writers capture her confusion with such sincerity that it doesn't feel like teenage angst, it feels like truth. Then there's the new face, someone who doesn't yet fit in but tries. Perhaps a new ranch hand, or a visiting trainer, or even a neighbor with a connection to one of the main characters. They bring a fresh energy to the ranch, but also a ripple of tension. Their presence challenges the comfort of routine, shaking loose emotions that the others have been trying to bury. Every word, every glance they share with the core cast adds layers to the story, subtle, but meaningful. Even the smaller moments, Lisa's calm advice to Jack, or the way the family gathers around the dinner table, hold emotional weight. Heartland has always been about more than just one story. It's about how these little pieces fit together to form something bigger. The side characters remind us that healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through connection, through laughter, through the messy, imperfect web of relationships that keep this family together. What stands out most in this episode is how every character, no matter how small their screen time, adds warmth and texture. They remind us that life at Heartland isn't built on grand moments alone. It's built on shared glances, small kindnesses, and the quiet support that never makes the headlines. By the end of episode 4, you realize that while Amy, Jack, Tim, and Lou carry the weight of the story, it's these supporting hearts that make it beat. They are the echo of everyday life. The reason this show still feels like home after 19 seasons. Because at Heartland, every person matters. Every voice adds something. And even in the background, love finds a way to be heard. Every episode of Heartland tells a story. But episode 4 feels like it's whispering a lesson. Not loud, not forced, just quietly, like a truth you've always known, but never said out loud. Beneath the drama, the laughter, and the everyday rhythm of ranch life, there's something deeper happening here. This isn't just about horses or heartbreak. It's about the invisible weight that every character carries and how they learn to live with it. At its heart, episode 4 is about healing without closure. Amy's journey reminds us that grief doesn't end. It changes shape. You don't wake up one day suddenly whole again. You just learn how to move through life with the cracks showing. Her connection with the wounded horse mirrors her own, both learning to trust again after being hurt. It's a reminder that broken things can still run, and broken hearts can still love. Jack and Tim's story adds another layer, one about forgiveness and pride. Their conflict isn't about right or wrong. It's about learning to let go of ego for the sake of love. They show us that growing older doesn't always mean growing softer, but it can mean growing wiser. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to fight harder, but to finally stop fighting at all. Then there's Lou, caught between duty and desire, struggling to balance who she is with who everyone expects her to be. Her journey represents the search for self. Episode 4 captures that ache of wanting to do everything right and realizing you can't. It's about learning that perfection isn't love, presence is. And sometimes being there, even when you don't have the answers, is enough. What makes this episode stand out is how all these threads come together. Not in grand speeches, but in small gestures. A quiet glance across the dinner table. A hesitant hand reaching out to comfort. A shared silence that says more than words ever could. That's the real magic of Heartland. It finds beauty in the spaces between moments. The land itself becomes a metaphor wide and unpredictable. The storms that pass over Heartland aren't just weather. They're symbols of life's chaos. But every time the rain clears, the light that follows feels softer, warmer, earned. Episode 4 teaches us that healing isn't a destination. It's a season. Some days you bloom. Other days, you just hold on. And both are okay. By the end of the episode, you don't feel like you've watched a story. You feel like you've lived a quiet truth that love doesn't always fix everything, that makes everything worth facing. Because at Heartland, the lessons aren't shouted. They're felt in every sunrise, every goodbye, and every moment someone chooses love over fear. Episode 4 isn't just another chapter. It's a reminder that no matter how heavy life gets, the heart always finds a way home. When the credits roll on Heartland Season 19, Episode 4, you don't just walk away. You sit there for a moment, thinking, feeling, maybe even smiling through the ache. That's the magic of Heartland. It doesn't just tell a story, it leaves something behind. A warmth that stays with you long after the screen fades to black. Across the fandom, reactions have been powerful and deeply personal. Viewers have shared how Amy's quiet strength mirrors their own journeys through loss, how Lou's exhaustion feels too familiar, how Jack's wisdom reminds them of their grandparents. This episode doesn't rely on shock or spectacle. It moves you with truth, with simplicity. With heart, fans are calling episode 4 one of the most emotionally grounded chapters of the season. Not because something huge happens, but because the smallest things hit the hardest. A letter found, a glance shared, a promise made. It's the kind of writing that proves why Heartland has lasted this long, because it never forgets where it came from. It never stops being honest. From a reviewer's eye, episode 4 feels perfectly balanced. The pacing is gentle, yet deliberate. Every subplot, from Amy's renewal to Jack and Tim's reconciliation, connects seamlessly without feeling rushed. The cinematography captures the quiet beauty of Alberta's landscape, turning every sunrise into poetry and every sunset into a sigh of relief. The music, soft and tender, threads emotion through every frame without ever overpowering it. Performance-wise, everyone delivers something special. Amber Marshall's portrayal of Amy feels both fragile and fearless, a rare mix that only she can bring. Sean Johnston, as Jack, grounds the episode with the weight of unspoken wisdom. Now, Chris Potter's Tim continues to surprise, revealing cracks in his armor that make him more human than ever. Even Lou's arc, played with layered sensitivity, shows growth that feels earned, not written. But perhaps the greatest achievement of this episode is its honesty. It reminds us that growth doesn't come with a single victory. It's built through quiet choices. It's through moments of stillness, through the love that survives between heartbreaks. Heartland has always been about family, not just by blood, but by choice, and episode 4 captures that message with breathtaking grace. As the screen fades on the final scene, you realize something simple, yet profound. Heartland isn't just a show about horses or ranch life. It's about the parts of us that keep fighting, even when no one's watching. It's about forgiveness, resilience, and the courage to keep loving in a world that constantly changes. So, if this episode left you with tears in your eyes or warmth in your chest, you're not alone. That's what Heartland does. It finds the tender corners of your heart and reminds you that healing is still possible. And as we look ahead to episode 5, one thing's certain: the story may move forward, but episode 4 will linger. Like a quiet melody that stays in your mind long after it stops playing, because Heartland isn't just television, it's a feeling. In this episode was its heartbeat.